Hey everyone. So I wanted to offer this video to explain out the closing session process. Um, some of you are going to want to use your fifth video to submit to me for grading, and that's totally fine. But I always prefer the fourth session if possible, or the third, depending on where you were at in the process when I graded your midterm, because you do need to devote some time to actually going through the closing exchange with the client, and that takes some time. So it just kind of clutters the video a little bit when I want to be grading you on advanced skill areas. But again, that's not, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And so you need to submit the fifth session. So if you need to do, if you need to use the fifth session to get some of your advanced skills shown, obviously start with that. I mean, I think it's appropriate to indicate, this is our final session, but I wanted to cover a couple of things to make sure that we close things up on a good note, and whatever. And then do what you need to do as far as the counseling process goes to showcase some of your advanced skill areas, and then you'll get to this point. And so this is what everyone will need to make sure that they do to close things up is I think it's helpful to just be overt about it and to say, so again, this is kind of a closing session for you. Um, I think those are great opportunities to kind of reflect on the things that we've gone through for this experience, um, and sort of open it up that way. What I would like for you to try to do is reflect on, allow them the space to talk about the things that they have, and this is in no particular order, really. Reflect on the things that they feel like they've grown through the process, or things that they may have observed about themselves, or maybe they feel like they're on the same track, and that's fine too, whatever. It then gives you an opportunity to reflect on what you have gained or what you have observed about them, and then what you've sort of picked up from the process, because I think it's both. Um, it's a giving and taking sort of experience. I have thanked my clients for teaching me things about the human experience that I wouldn't have otherwise picked up on, and that's going to help me both personally and professionally. And thanking them for giving me the opportunity to try to help them through some of this. And I think it's appropriate for you to thank them for both that and the opportunity to practice your skill areas and to complete this course in a meaningful way. Um, and then kind of give some space again for, so after we've done all of this, is there anything else that kind of pops up in your head you want to talk about? It's this is going to be the kind of the final time we meet and everything like that. Some other things that I think may or may not come up, but if they come up you should address is, if they then say, can we keep in touch after this? I think it's appropriate to kind of set boundaries around that. So you all are peers, so student to student, sure, it's appropriate that you keep up after this. You're both counseling students in different programs. um, you're both students, and so sure, but this ends that simulated professional relationship, so you can't be acting as their counselor in any other capacity outside of this. You will have to be kind of peers, and in that way that's fine, but not counselor client anymore. And so I think it's important to speak to that if they do feel like they gain something from the experience, and some folks really do, and I think that's to the credit of our students that you all do a really good job with this. I think then it's appropriate to say, well, why don't we think about what you might want in a counselor, so that we can have use some of this time to prepare you for finding the person that's going to be useful for you. And you can even start looking for that. Like, you can help them in the session to kind of look through Psychology Today and see if there are counselors in their area, or just give them some ideas about where they can go after the session. And it's appropriate for them to follow up with you and say, do you have any recommendations? Would you um have a suggestion for things that I should search for? That's totally appropriate. And this is really where your theoretical orientation piece comes in. Even if you all didn't practice that as thoroughly as maybe you would want to, or maybe I would have hoped you would, because it doesn't always fit super well. But this is where that theoretical orientation that you do indeed possess, even if you're not completely clear on what it is yet, is important, because as they're picking at you on, what would be helpful for me, or could you make any recommendations for me, it would be appropriate to say stuff like, well, I don't know if it's useful, but I practice from a cognitive behavioral standpoint, or like that's the thing that is in my head most of the time. So maybe that's something you might want to look at in another counselor. It's no guarantee that that's going to flavor the experience um, with you in the same way, but that's something that I know I try to do. So thinking about what it is that you bring to the table for them, asking them what they appreciated or didn't appreciate out of the experience, and then being able to make those recommendations for them are good. This session may not last. Like if you need it for a submission, then it should last a standard amount of time, a 50-minute session. But if you don't need it, and this is just you intend or have already submitted me session 4 or whatever the case, 3 or whatever the case may be, because some folks have already, then you don't have to take the full amount of time to get through this. If it only takes you 20, 30, I mean, 30 is probably more realistic than 20. 20, I think, would be kind of rushing it, because I do want you to take some time to reflect with the client. But if it takes you like 30 minutes or so and you're kind of winding it down, you can end early. That's fine. This is like opening sessions tend to take longer because there's more information that you're dealing with. Closing sessions kind of end when they're going to. You don't have to just sit it out. That's not a requirement for me. Um, I think that that's the bulk of the things that I'd want you to consider in this. Again, thank them for the experience. Reflect on it. Thank them again before you leave. Um, it's really just an opportunity to say what have they gained, where do they want to go from here, maybe nowhere, that's fine. What have you gained, and what do you want to, it marks a closure, and that's important for us. We have rituals that we go through to begin the experience. We have all of the skill areas we use in the middle. There are things that we try to accomplish to mark a closure to the experience too, and so that's what we try to do. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have specific questions, let me know. And we'll talk about it all when we meet next, but some of you may be closing before we meet. So hopefully this gives you at least a start, but email me if not. Take care, have a good day, and I'll talk to you all soon.